If there's one thing that I do not like, it's wasting my money. And I'm assuming that there are a lot of people that do not like to waste their money. And with a lot of things, we think that we can buy ourselves a way into happiness. But a lot of times the opposite is actually true. And this is also the case with plugins. So today I want to talk about essential plugins in the YC Studio way. So let's get started. Now, I have made a lot of videos about plugins. Actually, at the moment of recording this video, there are 252 videos in my plugin review playlist. Sometimes I really don't like a plugin and sometimes I'm very enthusiastic about a plugin, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you should buy it. When I'm enthusiastic about a plugin, it basically means that it's just a good plugin. Doesn't mean that you need it. And I want to show you all today how I am picking the plugins that I buy and use in my day-to-day workflow. I don't always have to buy a plugin. Sometimes I already have the license for it, but that doesn't mean that I want to use it in my day-to-day workflow for multiple reasons. And I'm going to try to explain everything as well as I can. So let's assume that you are starting, you just got your DAW, and you're thinking about buying your first plugin. Because if you look at your DAW, most of them, they already come with a lot of plugins. Like in Reaper, we already have an EQ built in. We already have a compressor built in. Now, mind you, these are not going to win a beauty contest, but they don't have to look good. They have to, most of all, sound good. And they also have to do their work well when it comes to workflow and usability. The easier it is to use a plugin, the easier it gets to mix your music using those plugins. And what I've noticed is that you can already do a lot of stuff with the plugins that come with your DAW. Like every DAW that I know of has an EQ, has a compressor, has a gate. Some of them have a de-esser, not all of them. Most of them have a reverb, most of them have a delay, and most of them have a limiter built in. So you already have those tools. You can already use those tools and they are very well usable. Now let's consider you have a bit of money and you want to upgrade one of these plugins from your DAW. The first one that I would actually look at is your reverb. The reason for that is that I've noticed that usually the reverbs that come with DAWs are not that good. You can make a huge difference when it comes to reverbs. And the reverb that I would look for would be a reverb that you can universally apply. So one with a lot of different capabilities. And my favorite two reverbs, and these are the ones that I actually use, so that's where this comes from, are the FabFilter Pro R and the Sonable Smart Reverb. Having one of these two plugins is already a big upgrade compared to most built-in reverbs. So that will be the first one that I would upgrade. Now, when you are more focused on mastering, I can imagine that a reverb isn't really what you're looking for. There are some applications of using reverb on the master bus, but most of the times I think there's something else that you really want to use. And it depends a little bit on the goal that you have for your mastering. If you want to master the old-fashioned way and basically want to pump up your music up to plus 2.3 LUFS or higher, then it might be wise to look for a limiter, a very good limiter, because this is also something that is like, there's a lot of professor stuff involved in creating a limiter, and there's a lot to win over the built-in plugins in a DAW. What you will also notice when it comes to limiters is that there is a big difference in how they sound and how they perform. I basically use, again, two of them, the one from FabFilter and the one from Sonable. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it's just how it is. There is one that I'm considering to add to my bundle, and that is the Flatline 2 from Submission Audio, because this one also has some very good clipping built in, which is something that I sometimes want to use. However, I generally do not pump up my music this loud anymore. But in some cases, some clients really have specifications where it can be handy to have a clipper on the master bus. If limiting is not that important for your mastering, you can put the limiter to the second place on your priority list and basically put a multiband compressor as your first priority. Multiband compression isn't available in all DAWs. Some of them have it. They're usually pretty limited in their capabilities, and you can do so much stuff with a multiband compressor. Basically, I would again recommend the FabFilter one, the Pro MB. That's the one that I use. You know, the reason why I'm recommending plugins is because I use them, not because I'm getting paid to or whatever. I mean, ask the guys from FabFilter; they're not paying anyone. Also, ask the people from Sonnable; they're also not paying anyone. So it's just what I use, and I have a very good reason for that, which I will tell in the end. And the reason is not what you might think. Anyway, I use the Pro MB because it just has a great user interface. It's very easy to use, and having a good multiband compressor really helps a lot, and will definitely make a huge shift in your workflow when you're coming from just using the stock plugins. Now from there you can choose two directions to go into, like for the next plugin to buy. You can either choose to upgrade your utility plugins, the plugins that come with your DAW, by for instance buying a bundle, and that is actually what I did with the Sonnable and FabFilter stuff. I have both the FabFilter and Sonnable plugin bundles, and how I would select that bundle is, of course, they have to sound good and they have to function well. That's important. But I would definitely take a look at the user interface. And this is really where the Pro Q is a good example. Like the Pro Q for me is an example of how to design a user interface for an EQ. Like I haven't seen an EQ interface that even comes close to how well the Pro Q is designed. There's actually a very interesting thing going on with the dynamic EQ in here, and I'll link a video about that in the corner. For me, it's still one of the best EQ plugins that you can get. What is also cool to consider, and this is the other EQ that I'm using regularly, is the Sonnable Smart EQ. The Smart EQ is also very good in their user interface design, but what makes Smart EQ unique is it has built-in AI, and this is something that is going to come up in the industry in the next couple of years, and it can really help you. I've actually been using it more than I thought I would be using it, so consider something like that as well. But again, you're only going to need one bundle. So as said, you can move away from your DAW plugins. What you can also do is getting into the more specific plugins. One of them that I have is a really unique one. It's called the Eventide Split EQ, which really adds a certain functionality to your bundle. It basically splits your sound into the transient and the tonal parts, and you can EQ them both individually from each other. So this is a very specific plugin, but it really adds something to your capabilities. Most plugins that you can get are analog emulations. They are very specific and they're really built to do one particular thing. And sometimes I do think that there's an unlimited supply of these type of plugins. I see so many of them. I don't even have time to look at them all, but there are a lot of them. And they also come in all different forms and shapes. And it's very easy to get completely drowned underwater with these type of plugins. When it comes to analog emulations, like specific analog emulations, I only have one, which is the Alpha compressor from Brainworks, and that's just because I really like the Alpha compressor and don't have one. Because, spoiler alert, I just buy analog equipment because it basically lasts a lifetime and I just like analog stuff. But I basically only have the Alpha compressor when it comes to like real analog emulation units. And when it comes to reverbs and, rooms, because this plugin is a bit more than just reverb, I also have the Universal Audio Sound City reverb, and that's basically because I can really make good use of it with a lot of drum recordings that I'm doing, where the drums have been recorded in not so well sounding rooms, and by using the Sound City plugin I can emulate a good room over it. Now keep in mind that I do have a stash of analog reverbs here as well, also some very specific ones, including an EMT 140 plate reverb. So I don't need those type of plugins, but I can imagine that these are the types of emulation that you really want to add to your collection in your DAW. But really don't go overboard with this. You only need a few ones. And what you will notice if you're going to buy a lot of them is that you're only going to use a few of them. So try out the demo during the demo period and really check if this is something that you really want to use for a long time, because otherwise it will basically just be a waste of money. And this whole video is about not wasting too much money on plugins. Now there's also a third category that I don't want to waste too much time on discussing, and that's basically the plugins that promise magic, that basically can cure incurable diseases and other stuff. Stay away from them and stay pretty far away from them. Usually those type of plugins are focused more on marketing than on creating a good product. So stay away. Anyway, I've been talking a lot about the FabFilter, Sonnable, Brainworks, Eventide, and Universal Audio plugins that I'm using, because those are the only brands that I'm actually using, I think. Yeah. Here you can see it. These are basically all the plugins. So we have FabFilter here, Sonnable here, some other stuff like pink noises and stuff that I can insert here, Split EQ, Alpha Compressor, and I still need to make a button for Sound City. That's it. This is everything, really. And I know it might be surprising to all of you that I'm not using that many plugins, because I can basically use any plugin that I want. But how I got to this is a combination of a few things. Workflow, we talked about that. Sound, very important. A plugin just has to perform very well when it comes to sound. Definitely things like, utilitarian EQs, where it shouldn't do weird stuff with the sound. But the third thing, and we haven't talked about that, and this is something that I weigh very heavily on when selecting not just my plugins, but everything that is based on software in general, including my converters, including my video editing software. Everything is based on how well the software is being maintained. Because if there's something that I do not like, is a software update not being available and basically my investment going to zero as soon as the Mac gets an update or something else changes or whatever. It's just a fact of life that software keeps evolving. Operating systems keep evolving, and not just for the sake of evolving, but also for the sake of, for instance, security and also performance. Like one of the things that happened with the Apple Silicon transition is not only did we get better performing chips, but also way more energy efficient chips. My former Intel-based studio computer, which was a Mac Pro, was consuming like 450 watts or something, and I'm now running it on an M1 chip, which is consuming like, I don't know, 30 watts or something. I don't know what the max consumption of an M1 is, but there's just a constant evolvement of software. And it's really important to me that the software that I'm using is really keeping up with that constant evolutionary stuff that is going on. And there are multiple reasons for that. The first one is, of course, investment. So if you would spend 100 euros on a piece of gear that would stop working after a month, you would go back to the factory and ask for warranty. However, if you would invest 100 euros in software that is not very well maintained, but it works on your laptop, and like after a month you spill water over your laptop and you need to get a new one. You buy a new Apple Silicon based laptop and all of a sudden you cannot use the software that you paid 100 euros for anymore. You can't get any warranty on that. They probably won't help you, because if they would be able to help you, they would have already made a new version of it. Another reason why this is so important for me is because I'm in here basically spending all of my time that I'm not recording videos, doing mixing and mastering work for clients. And I don't want to come into the studio, one day when I cannot use like half of my plugin bundle and getting the headache of needing to wait more than a year before the plugins are being updated or whatever. That's the other reason. What I'm using in my personal production bundle just has to work every single day. I'm basically looking at like, hey, how long did it take for them to update their software when, Apple decides to create a new architecture or something. Of course, it's not going to be instant. It's going to take a few months or something. That's no problem at all. But I've realized that there are a lot of developers that are lazy, that still, after like 3 years since the Apple Silicon introduction, haven't updated their software. And I cannot work with that. So software updates are really, really important. And that is basically how I got to this small, it's difficult to see, the cord is not long enough, but this small bundle that I'm basically doing everything with. And I actually dare to say that you can do everything with that bundle. Now, I hope that I really helped some of you out there with deciding what is going to be the next plugin to buy or maybe not buy. Let me know in the comments down below. I really didn't want to make a get these plugins first list type of video. A lot of other YouTubers are already doing that, and making a list video is that will be something for a different video. The goal for this video really was giving all of you a few tips in how to better select the next purchase or non-purchase. So if you liked my video and want to support me, consider buying or not buying your next audio engineering plugin or equipment using my affiliate links. I'll link Toman and Sweetwater over here and Plugin Boutique over here. If you use my affiliate link, a little bit of your purchase gets kicked back to me. And this goes for everything that's in the store after clicking my link or scanning my QR codes. Another way to support me is by becoming a channel member. For $4.99 you get early access to videos, and for $7.99 you get access to all extra content that I'm making, including a lot of tutorials. I'll link an interesting playlist about that over here. Now, the last way to support this channel is by watching more videos, so I'll link an interesting video over here. Thanks a lot for watching, keep pushing, and bye-bye.